2023, and Donald Trump has really made history. He always wanted to be notable in his presidency, and he has become the first president to ever be charged with criminal conduct in by a court, and he was arraigned today in New York State Court on several charges, mostly related to lying under oath and criminal exchange of money. The New York District Attorney charged him with mainly election law crimes, as I discussed before, and they're very real. Those crimes are very real. People get caught with them all the time. They check all elected officials and other people who are in positions of authority to spend money, such as your school board, your city council, your mayor. All kinds of people have to go through these checks, and so it's not just the president that has these laws placed upon them. It's every elected official, and their records are available in your local offices. Now, in order to become president, every candidate has to go to the states where they are going to have their name placed on the ballot, and they have to fill out forms. In New York, and this crime is in New York State, President Trump, or ex-President Trump, had to go out in order to become a candidate in New York, which was where he resided and where he voted, and he had to fill out forms, and one of them is a financial disclosure form, and it asks a multitude of questions. I imagine for Trump, that thing would have just been exhaustive, but he has to fill it out, and it has to be right, has to be correct. Now, you can put in problems that aren't correct, but you can adjust them. So that if you go and you look over your stuff and you say, "Oops, I put this wrong," you can adjust it and file a repaired form, and that's okay. And if it's a minor thing, and you haven't been acting on in any criminal way, they will probably overlook it, and they might give you a warning. Well, just be careful with such and such and such. But most people are not going to do any criminal acts, and so it doesn't become a big deal. But if you are involved in something which is at a criminal level, well, then you can be charged, and they do fine people, and you can be put in jail. Now, mostly people will become fined because financial crimes usually don't rise to the level of having to put somebody in jail. Now, that's why in the uh, Alex Murdoch case, he wanted to be tried only on his 99, I repeat that, 99 financial crimes, because people are more lenient with financial crimes, and he could have his sentences reduced or in some way make his sentencing easier. He did not want to be charged with a murder crime, and a lot of attorneys said, don't charge him with the murder crime. That, we haven't found the gun. Murdoch had all these people coming into the property, and they screwed up the evidence. They were cleaning up things, and everybody was, covering for him. Don't charge him on that. It's too muddled. But they did, and they did find enough evidence eventually. In the beginning, it didn't look good, but it did find enough evidence eventually to prove he was there at the murder scene. He was the only one there at the murder scene, and he was the person who was found guilty of killing his son and his wife. So a lot of times these cases at the beginning, they don't have all of the evidence, but as things go on, as they go through discovery, and after the arraignment, that's official time to do discovery, they will find out more and more of things that they need in order to make this case solid. But I'm pretty sure that the uh, New York DA, Mr. Bragg, has enough information for his case, because this is against a ex-president, and he would not want to go in there just hopeful that he'll find stuff. He's going to have pretty much all of his ducks in order, and he's been interviewing a lot of witnesses in the past, so he has a lot of that stuff on record. And even if somebody would put a hit out on somebody, or in other ways incapacitate or find the person missing, they would still have the information they need in order to carry out the case. And I say that stuff because in a lot of these gangs, mafia cases, they do try to intimidate the witnesses, they try to intimidate the judges, they try to intimidate all the prosecuting attorneys and DA's office, everybody. So, people who work in the courthouse, they might try to bribe them for information or to go through the judge's official records. So they do put out a lot of feelers. They check out as much as possible the case before it even goes to court. They have stuff pretty much in a row ready to go, and they said they will have motions until later this year. And I'm sure Trump's attorneys are going to flood the courthouse with motions. There are going to be a billion of them in order to try to delay this case even further. The court says they're ready to have the trial in January. Trump lawyers say no, they need more time. They need to wait till spring. And they're going to delay. And this case will probably go on forever. And the reason the prosecution is probably ready for January is because they already have their ducks in a row. They have enough right now to lay out what they're alleging, and all they need to do is hear the responses from Donald Trump and his attorneys. The payments that they're talking about, most of them go towards the payments that were given to Stormy Daniels, and they said that those payments were from Trump to his attorney, Michael Cohen, for Cohen's services. But Cohen says no, they weren't for his services. He was given the ability to transfer the money to Stormy Daniels on the authority of Donald Trump, his boss. And so that seems reasonable. Attorneys don't just go in and start grabbing their client's money without authority, whether it's verbal or written. And I'm sure Cohen has everything written down. And then he wired the money, so that would be wire fraud, to lie about where you sent the money and why. So Trump came in, a lot of protection. His private Secret Service agents were in the courtroom, outside the courtroom, all over the place, and there were police everywhere. And so it was quite expensive for Trump to come in for this arraignment. Normally it takes about 15 minutes or less for an arraignment. They basically come in, the court announces that they now have control of your body and your actions, and oftentimes they will take your passport and all kinds of things to make sure you don't flee the country. They will take a picture, get your fingerprints, give you paperwork for your case so that you know what you're doing when you leave the courthouse, give you a follow-up court date, and so forth. It's not a time to actually discuss the case. It's just a time for the two to meet and for the defendant to realize that they have actually been captured by the law and they are now officially involved in this case. They can't plead they didn't know what was going on, or that everything took them by surprise. The judge did not really address much, according to the people that were there, about hostile rhetoric. hostile pictures. They did ask Trump to be on his best behavior. And I think that if Trump does have hostile rhetoric or insightful rhetoric against anybody, I think Trump should pay for the protection, because the DA, Mr. Braggs, would need a 24-hour security guards around him and his car and so forth, because, the mafia does do exploding motorcycles and exploding cars and exploding gifts and so forth. So he would need a lot of protection for his office, for his home, for his family, and I think all of that should be paid by Donald Trump if he is using hostile rhetoric for this case. Also for the judge, the courthouse, and for witnesses who might be involved. And we know Michael Cohen is a witness. He would also need a lot of special protection because he knows where the bodies are buried. So, let me see, what else did we see here? So we'll have to watch to see if Trump behaves through his social media posts, whether with his behavior. He's going to give a speech later tonight. We'll see what he does about that. In the courthouse, they did not allow any electronics because, as I said, a lot of times people do put bombs in these things, and so there were no electronics. There was no commotion, according to reports today in the courthouse, and everything seemed to go pretty smoothly. They alleged Trump of a catch-and-kill scheme, meaning that as he was going into his presidency, he wanted to catch anybody who had dirt on him, pay him off, and kind of bury the evidence. And he also created shell companies in order to transfer money from him through shell companies to the people that he was paying off. They said he lied or signed or approved false documents about 34 times. And there are 34 felony counts against him, so those are probably the same things. And of course, it does include the $130,000 that he wired to Stormy Daniels. Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, was out in front of the courthouse fundraising because, of course, this is a good time to get everybody. They're emotional. They're there. And they said they did get several $1 million from people who wanted to support the president, and that will all go who knows where. That's probably going into an account which does not have any limitations on amount you can give. However, he is a declared candidate, but if it goes to a separate PAC, he might not have to account for the money that's coming in. So people are free to give to his fundraising as much as they want, and it can be used however they want to use it. That information would also be available through the federal election website for anyone who's interested. So then that would also be part of a conspiracy. Now, if the PAC is involved in funneling money to people that he's trying to silence or to control in any such pattern, well, that would also possibly part of the conspiracy counts. But we have yet to know exactly what they are, and all of that stuff will come out in the near future. Trump, of course, will fight vigorously to clear his name. I don't think he wants to be the criminal president. There are no rules about who can run for president. It just has an age, 35, born in the United States citizen. It doesn't say anything about criminal history, doesn't say whether or not you can be fighting a court allegation at the time you're running. Doesn't say anything about social behavior, so you can be a drag queen. In fact, Hoover was said to be, he was head of the FBI, is said to have been dressing in women's garments. I don't know too much about all of that stuff, but he was head of the FBI forever, and he did a lot of investigations against people, threw them in jail for basically their lives, and there are no rules about your behavior. So all of the stuff they have against the congressman, and I'm forgetting his name right now. Let me see if I have it. I think it's Santos, where he was cross-dressing. He was in drag parties. He lied about his education. None of that stuff is encoded in the law. This stuff that Trump is charged with is law. And you can see my past discussion on that. So anyone can run for president, but you do have to go through each state. You have to, get cleared by each state that you are eligible to be a candidate in that state, and the state can make up other things. For instance, Trump never wanted to disclose his IRS taxes, but some states are going to make that more necessary in the future because they felt he was hiding a lot of crime in that. This case is big. There haven't been many cases that have been this big. I think the one I can remember is Michael Jackson, when Michael Jackson used to rouse up the crowd as he was leaving court. I think the one time he jumped onto a car, started dancing. He had his cameraman taking pictures of the crowds, and the judge, at the next time he met with Michael, he told him that was not suitable for the case, and he warned him not to do that again. So Trump has not shown any of that behavior. I don't know if we'll see Trump jumping on top of one of his limousines and taking pictures in order to incite the crowd, but who knows? Trump is a person who seeks revenge, so whatever happens in this case, we know that for his lifetime he will be seeking revenge against all people who he has declared to himself are his enemies. We do not expect a Darrell Brooks type event where Trump will start acting up in court and he'll have to be put in a separate room for the hearing. Trump looks like he's going to obey. He's not going to be fighting and using this for drama as he does often. As I said, sometimes these errors are made a mistake, but that's common for a person like you or me to say because, we're normal people. But Trump has a bevy of lawyers and people who help him with all this paperwork, and claiming mistake on his papers would be much more difficult for him to use as an excuse. So we'll see what happens. Take care. Love you. Like and subscribe. Bye.